For the very first time in the over 10 years that I've been sewing, I've never been a pattern tester until now. And in this video, I'm going to show you exactly what went through the process, how it worked, and you're going to have to stay till the end to see the final reveal. Because I actually did the one that I tested the pattern on and a little bonus that I'll show you at the very, very end. I have never tested a pattern before, and I saw somebody that I followed for a very long time on Instagram actually put out a clarion call for pattern testers for one of her main items that she makes. And I was like, you know, that sounds pretty cool because I've never done it before. She put out the call and it had been like 8 hours when she did it. And I was like, well, maybe I'll have a chance. So I went through and I messaged her and I was like, hey, if you're still looking for pattern testers, I would love to try it, because I thought it'd be pretty cool. And also the pattern would be something that is really my style. Patchwork is my style. I love using scraps. Like, that is my jam. So I messaged her and I really wasn't thinking too much about it. I was like, oh, I'm sure all the spots were filled. But lo and behold, she messaged me and said, you're in. And she was like, okay, I would like, it to be done in this time frame. And I was like, let's go. So anyway, we did all of the details and everything, sent me the pattern, tried it out, gave some feedback, also, asked some clarifying questions. It was really, really cool to just say that, hey, you were a part of shaping this thing for this creator to happen. So definitely go check out the pattern. Her name on Instagram is Dressed in Dreams Designs. I will put her information in the description and on the screen somewhere. But very, very sweet person. It was a very seamless process. It was so fun to do. This is the first pattern that she's ever put out. Go check out Anna on Instagram. Go buy the pattern. Support small business because it's extremely important at this point in time. I'm going to run through the generalized process that went into making the final result. I'm not going to give you the details because you need to buy the pattern. That's what you need to do. So, all right, so the first part of doing a pattern is picking out the fabrics. Isn't that the fun part about it? I feel like that's probably one of the most fun parts besides the actual sewing part. But what I decided to do was I picked out some fabrics from my stash, of course, because I have lots of different choices. I decided to, instead of just freeballing the cutting of the pattern, I decided to make one out of paper because I just felt like it was going to be way easier to do it that way versus just trying to cut everything to size. So I made a paper pattern based off of the dimensions from the written instructions and cut out all of my fabrics using that pattern. Now, it went way easier doing it this way versus just, again, trying to just use my mat to do it. But once I got everything cut out, nice and pressed and ready to go with all of the quantities that I needed, I got everything together and made sure that I had enough pieces and that it was good to go. Then I started rearranging pieces here and there and was like, okay, well, we'll do this and we'll do this. And it was not really a lot of rhyme and reason, but I just wanted to make sure that it was going to make sense. So once I got all of my pieces cut out, pressed, and ready to go, then I started the process of putting all of the pieces together. This was probably the longest part of the process because there's a lot of pieces that are involved to make a super duper large skirt. And the skirt itself has multiple tiers, so there's just a lot of pieces to put together. But I did like seeing all of the fullness come together, and once I had all of my sides together, I was like, wow, this is a lot of material. But I knew that the end result was going to be totally worth it. But once I got everything clipped and ready to go, it was time to go to the serger. I did decide to use my serger for most of this project. There were some parts I had to use just a regular sewing machine, but most of my piecing done with my serger. It is one of the best purchases I think that I've ever made in my whole sewing career. I mean, if you want to call it a career, but definitely it's helped me out in more ways than one when it comes to piecing scraps together for sure. But yep, got the serger out, put it to work. She was definitely doing a lot of the heavy lifting on this project, and yeah, I really appreciate all of that. But this is what one of my tiers looked like. While I was piecing, I went ahead and did the serger on the bottom edge, which was where the hem was going to go. Then we had to get to pressing because I was going to do this the correct way. Imagine me doing it correct, huh? I'm not usually the one to bust out my iron, but I was like, hey, I'm doing it the way that the pattern has. So we go and we press and we press and we press and we press some more. But once we got everything pressed, then was the time to get to gathering. And this was part of the process that I was very honest with Anna. I told her, I was like, this part of the process was something that I did a little bit differently than the pattern said. Just because I do have experience doing gathers and there is a way that I wanted to do it. So I did modify it a little bit differently from what it said in her instructions. And we had a whole conversation about it. It was all positive, nothing, bad or anything. Once we got to the gather stage, it was time to actually make the gathers. This was another part that was a little bit painstaking, but again, once you pull that thread together and get those gathers going, you're just like, oh yeah, this is the good stuff right here. So got the sewing machine, got all my gathers pulled. If you've ever done gathering with the thread method, you know that you've got to pull your bottom thread to get everything to bunch up and look all nice. So that was also probably the second longest part of the process, is making the gathers. But again, it's a very important part of how the finished item is going to look. Once I got all the gathers together and spaced out in the correct way, it's time to pin the gathered tier to the non-gathered tier. So that took a little bit of time too, but not nearly as much time as it was to actually make the gathers. I actually knocked out the skirt in like about 2 hours, 2 or 3 hours. So again, it's not too bad. It's just you want to take your time with it so that you're not just messing something up. And I wanted to make sure that I did the pattern the best justice that I could. But once I got the gathered tier connected to the upper tier, that was when it was time to go back to the sewing machine and get everything connected. Now, what I did do was I connected the two tiers with a straight stitch on my sewing machine. And then I was going to go back and actually clean that up with my serger. I kind of forgot to do that. I mean, I'm not like selling the skirt or anything. This is for me, but I did mean to go back. That's kind of my bad. But after I went all the way around the skirt to attach the two tiers together, it was time to inspect everything and make sure that I didn't miss any of the gathers. There weren't any gaps that were super obvious in what I sewed. And this is what we're looking like so far. Pretty much, that's pretty much done. I mean, you got to make your waistband and stuff, but we are looking fancy right now. I'm loving it. And of course, I forgot to film myself doing the grommets, but you do have a grommet maker, an eyelet maker, then you're going to need that as well for the pattern. Or you could probably do buttonholes too, but since I've got the eyelet maker, I did choose to do it that way. So once I got the eyelets in place where they needed to be, I did go ahead and measure all the way around for the waistband, which what I used was a piece of ribbon. It was like an entire like spool of ribbon that I had laying around the house. But yeah, it worked out really well. You can use ribbon, you could use string, whatever you've got. You could probably even make one if you wanted to, but the ribbon worked out pretty well to go with the aesthetic of the skirt. Also went ahead and did the bottom hem of the skirt after that because I had my iron heated up and I was like, well, while I've got her heated up, let's go ahead and use it. So went ahead and did the bottom hem and got that iron so that then when we go back to the sewing machine, we can do the waistband and the bottom hem. So once I got the waistband ironed and ready to go, it was time to sew that down. And again, I did serge that edge in a previous step because I wanted it to be nice and non-frayed and make sure that it was going to be pretty clean and finished on the inside. Using my walking foot, I did have to kind of get the fabric to lay the way that I wanted it to. Probably going too fast. I need to slow down. Once I got the waistband, I was going to use my bodkin to thread it through, and it did not fit inside of the eyelets. So then I was going to use an embroidery needle. That was not a good idea because it just poked through the material. I don't know what I was thinking on that. So the third time is the charm. The third time I just used a normal safety pin like you usually do and put it on the end of the ribbon and threaded it all the way through the waistband. A little Facina tip, depending on the size of your eyelets or your grommets, make sure that your tool fits in there before you try to thread through the ribbon. So this is the final skirt reveal. As you can see, it is nice and large and very much size adjustable depending on what closure that you put on it. I've just got ribbon in mine, but I love the pattern so much that I made a second one. So I'll also show you that one as well. It only took me like an afternoon to do. Of course, I've got a serger, so that helped me, you know, go quite a bit faster. So I like the pattern so much, I made a second one. This one has elastic in it versus a drawstring, but I will probably add a drawstring to it. But this is like an autumn themed one that I really enjoyed as well. Next time I make one, because I'll probably make another one, I will definitely add pockets to it. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments. Also, go buy the pattern. If you want to make a super duper large adjustable skirt, go and buy the pattern from her because she's amazing and we need to support each other. Link will be in the description if you want to check that out. I appreciate you watching this video and I hope that you have a great day.